All right, new bike day. First thing I like to do when I get a new bike is cut the straps off here with my side cutters and pull the staples out so I don't scratch myself or my new bike. Let's see what we have here. Pull the packaging off here. Nice new pivotal post here. It's got 4 1/2, so you can fully customize where the seat sits. That's great, nice update. A little bit of grease in the seat tube. So I like to start by putting the seat post in so I can mount it in my bike stand. Okay, next step, we're gonna pull off all the packing material and we'll store it in the box so we can recycle it later. Just be careful not to touch the rotors on the wheel. They're sharp, and also the oil and grease in your hands could contaminate the brake pads and cause them to be ineffective. I'll just cut off these last zip ties, just careful of the spokes. Now that we've got the packaging off, remove any extra pieces of masking tape that you might find around the bike. Any residue can be removed with isopropyl alcohol. Next step is to install a handlebar. Using your 6mm Allen wrench, remove the face plates. Now's a good time as well if you want to change the stem position to make the handlebars higher or lower. Concentrate first on just getting the face plates reattached without cross-threading any of the hardware. And we'll just bring it up to snug to hold the bar until we're ready to put it in its final position. Paying close attention that we have equal distance at the top of the faceplate and the bottom. Once we have our bar centered in the position that we want, just proceed to snug these up to 5 Newton meters pressure. That's snugged up. Now we're going to align the handlebar with the forks. Best way to do that is looking down the front of the fork and the front of the handlebar and aligning the handlebar with the bottom of the fork here. And using the pinch bolts at the back of the stem. Once that's in position, you can snug these up to 5 Newtons as well, just like the faceplate. Now, anytime you're tightening bolts on the stem, you want to make sure you're alternating as you bring the tension up. Don't tighten one fully and then tighten the other fully. Bring them snug and alternating until they're both fully tight, just to distribute the pressure evenly. Okay, we're going to install the brake line into the clip here, onto the arch of the fork, just to keep it out of the tire's way. Next, we're going to install the front wheel, so we can remove the flat mount for the fork if you're building it without a stand. One thing to mention with the Yama Jama is the front hub axle caps are inside this small parts box. These clip on to the axle of the hub, just like so. Okay? These must be in place. Before installing our front wheel, we want to loosen the 5mm mounting bolts on the front caliper, so we have free movement in the caliper. Also make sure you removed your pad spreader. Next we're going to take off the front axle. It's a 2-part axle. It's got a lock nut on one side and then the through axle. And install the front wheel. Ensure that we're keeping an eye on the rotor. Start by lining the rotor up with the caliper, and we can install the wheel. Reinstall the nut, bring that snug, finger snug, and then with our quick release we can lock that into place. Give the wheel a spin, pull the lever and hold, and with our 5mm Allen wrench we're going to snug up gently to start. There, it's running nice and free. Now we'll lock those down knowing it's in the right position. Next we're going to install the pedals. Just remember, pay close attention. They're left and right specific. The left-hand side uses a left-hand thread, which is opposite of what you'd expect. We've got either a 15 mil wrench surface here or a 6 mil Allen wrench tooling on the inside of the axle. Great, well that's the bike assembled. Next thing to do is an overall bolt check. Just walking around the bike with your Allen wrench set and just ensuring that everything that has tooling is snug. We're not trying to tighten things, we're just making sure that they are in fact tight, which they should be. So we've done the front caliper. With the 6 mil, we've done the stem. Next up, really cool feature on this bike, lock-on grips. That is what looks to be 3 mil Allen wrench, and we're just making sure these are snugged up. You don't want to strip those out, but make sure they're tight. 4 mil Allen wrench for the two-piece cranks. Make sure those crank bolts are snug. Again, 5 mil for the rear caliper on the brakes. Make sure that's tight. It's a nice direct mount, so there's only 2 bolts to tighten there. And as well, our derailleur mount bolt. 5 mil Allen wrench again, and the hanger, just to make sure those are nice and snug. The seat, when we drop the bike down, we'll go over that. It's a 6 mil inside there to set our final position. Some really cool features on this bike, things that I have on my own personal bike, which is incredible. We've talked about the lock-on, which is great. An air fork, which we'll go over, setting the pressure on that. Full hydraulic disc brakes, front and rear. Pivotal seat posts, meaning we can get the seat post nice and low when we need to, and it's got all the adjustment we require. Direct mount, narrow wide chain ring. It's really cool. So it's a single ring, no chain guide required. We've got a clutch rear derailleur, meaning it keeps the chain nice and tight over rough terrain. 10 speeds, and for a bike with this wheel size, that's like the biggest climbing gear you could ever imagine when you're a kid. You were climbing up the walls. These bikes ship with a tube installed in the tire, which you'd expect, but what maybe you wouldn't expect is that these are tubeless ready rims and tires for a 20-inch wheel bike, which is incredible. So with the proper valve, tape, and sealant, you could be running these tubeless, which means lower tire pressure and no pinch flats. Just like I would run on my bike. I like to take it up to about 40 PSI, and that way I know that the bead is going to set all the way around on the rim. Have a look around. I can see that it's all the way up, the tire's centered, and from there I can drop the pressure down to a desired 25 PSI with the tube. Fork setup. We've got our hydraulic damper with a lockout, and then on the spring side it's an air sprung fork. We can remove this air cap, and then using a high pressure shock pump we can install until we've got pressure, and here a minimum 40 PSI, and then going up from there about 1 pound of pressure per pound of child. So for example, my son is about 65 pounds and he runs it at 65 PSI. One more thing I'd like to mention here, adjusting the brake lever reach. So the resting position for the lever, if we've got children with smaller hands that can't reach that lever very easily, using a 2 mil Allen wrench. There's tooling at the end of this push rod here where we can dial in the reach and set that adjustment for our child's individual needs. Much better. Just be careful not to pull these in so far that the lever is actually touching the handlebar. feature on the frame here, we've got a port here for internal routing to run a stealth dropper post. 30.9 seat posts, and a variety of brands build dropper posts in the range of 75 to 125 millimeters, which would fit in this and allow your child to drop right in, hound dog you down the trail. Great. Next thing I'm going to do is just run it through the gears, make sure we're hitting all the different. That's running nice, brakes running nice. They come set up. After a week or so of riding, everything's going to settle into place. You might notice the shifting needs a minor adjustment. Either you or you can do that, or you can take it down to your local bike shop and they'll give you a hand. Using our 6mm Allen wrench, we can set the angle of the seat through the top here. So identify the tooling, and I like to set it level for this style bike. And we also have the ability to move the seat forward a touch. And then we've got the quick release we can use just to set our final height. And there we have it. The best 20-inch complete mountain bike you can buy. Sub 22 pounds. You go tubeless, knock some of that rotational weight off, and you'll be chasing your kids uphill too.